Good morning or afternoon, everybody who's joining us, wherever in the world you're joining us from. Thank you for attending this session. We're just going to wait a few moments whilst some of the registered attendees join us. So if you want to hang on, that will be great. Please note that during the course of the presentation, the chat box that you will see in the interface will allow you to record any questions you have, and we'll come back to those at the end. But thank you for joining us, those who are in so far. Looking forward to delivering this to you today, and I hope you find it very useful. A few hellos coming. Hello to you too. We'll start the presentation shortly. We'll just give it a few minutes for some others to join us. We are also live streaming on YouTube, and some of our registered attendees might also be joining through that. So at the end, we will, I'm sure, be gathering up a whole host of questions, and we will be following up to everybody who's attended with some emails, just to see if you want to talk a little bit more, or you have any questions that you want to raise that you perhaps don't feel comfortable raising within the chat. That's fine. We can deal with those afterwards. And as you can see, just popped up in the chat box is the email address of info@compassgreece.com. Also, there's a button, a contact us button at the top of the presentation, which will take you directly to that email. And please feel free to post any questions or send any questions you have to that, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can, with either a meeting, if that's what you've asked for, or an answer to some basic questions, or whatever it is that we can do to deal with your query. Okay, so I think we're getting on for 5 minutes into the presentation. So maybe just start with a little bit of an introduction. So firstly, welcome again to the webinar on how to build your dream home in Greece. This is one of a number of webinars that us in the Ruva group of companies have been delivering recently. And I'm honoured to be able to present this one to you. My name is Martin Mather, and I'm the Managing Director of Compass Engineering and Development Solutions, which is part of the Ruva group of companies that is, with Compass and the other parts of the business, is always striving to provide the fullest, complete and rounded service it possibly can to all of our clients. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not Greek, I am British, and I've been living in Corfu for a little over 3 years after spending many years here with my family as they were growing up. And what a wonderful place it is to be living in now. My 30+ year career in real estate has given me a great deal of experience gained from working in many large and varied development, construction and consultancy sectors. And I've had the pleasure of working with some great global businesses, with diverse teams and on some amazing projects, actually, in many industry sectors. And what I want to do is use that experience to give you, in this webinar, my objective to give you the important information as I see it on this topic of how to build your dream home in Greece. Okay. So I've broken down the topics for today into some key stages. First of all, the design stage, and this will include achieving achieving your goals as a client, the role of the architect and engineer in the process, and some of the key planning rules. Those can be quite complicated, but I will give you as much information as I can without making it too complicated. The next topic is how to get the building permit, and this is going to include a summary of the process and the documentation that's required, the permit types, and the validity of that permit. I'll then talk about the project management and construction stage, and this is dealing with the quality control, cost control, schedule or program management, communication, and reporting. I'll then go on to explain to you a little about us as a business and what we do, the ways you can work with us, and then show you some examples of our projects to help you, I guess, connect what I spoke about in the design, permit, and project management stage to some real life examples. Finally, we will have a Q&A session. So, as I said, please carry on raising any questions you have in the chat box, and we'll get to those at the end. Thank you. Right. Let's get into some of the detail now. Firstly, to deal with the design stage, and as I said, this is about what I want to focus on here is really achieving your goals, the roles of the architect and engineer, and some of the key planning rules. So it's important that during the design stage, that this whole design process is controlled, or there is a risk that the final design is actually not in line with your requirements or within any of your constraints. And so to assist us in achieving those goals, at Compass, we generally follow the long-established Royal Institute of British Architects, or RIBA, plan of work. And this process is recommended by us because it has defined stages and deliverables for each of those stages. And at completion of those stages, there's an approval process by the client. So in summary, these stages start with the stage 0, the strategic definition. And this is about determining the best way to achieve your requirements. So in here, we will be discussing your goals, your budget and timeline, and we develop an overall plan that outlines the steps that are required to get us to the completion of your project. Once we've got the strategic plan in place, we'll then move on to the preparation and briefing stage. And during this part, we'll be developing a detailed brief. This will outline the scope of the project, the site conditions, and any other factors that might impact the design. With the brief in place, we move on to stage 2, or the concept design. And during this stage, this is where we're developing a design that really reflects your vision and meets your requirements. We're going to work closely in this stage, exploring different options and ensuring that the appearance and perception matches what you were expecting in the first place. And once this concept is finalized, we then move into stage 3, which is getting into more detail, and we call this the spatial coordination. And during this, we're coordinating the design with other specialists and engineers, carrying out studies, producing and submitting the required documentation for the planning process, and ensuring that everything we do is in line with the regulatory requirements of the planning process. Stage 4, technical design. Now, this is, from my experience, one of the key differences when working in Greece. As many, not all, but many architects and engineers tend to stop the design at the level that's required for the building permit, i.e. in stage 3 that we just discussed. And then they look to sort out the details with the construction company once they're on site or during the construction process. Now, we don't actually recommend this approach because it will see the builder potentially including a price in his price for the risks for things that he doesn't know, which can potentially artificially inflate the price to you as the client. It can also potentially introduce the risk that you experience extra costs during the construction and that you were unaware of when you started the journey. So we look to start this technical design whilst we wait for the building permit, and we would always recommend that we get it as substantially complete as we can before the construction stage starts. The final stage 5, manufacturing construction, is really focused now on dealing with queries that happen during the construction. Construction is never an exact element. There will always be issues that raise themselves during that construction process. But if we've spent the time doing the technical design correct, we should only really be focused or have our design team focused on dealing with those site queries in that stage, as well as obviously doing checks to verify that what has been designed is actually being delivered on the project. In addition to controlling the design process that we've just discussed, the other key activities that are essential in the design stage to achieve your goals are a buildability review. Now, this means reviewing the design to identify any areas in that design that may introduce unnecessary risk or cost. And from that review, we can then propose some improvements for cost and or time benefits. And our construction team will be carrying out this as they're an integral part of the project team from the very start. They don't just turn up at the end of the design process. Cost planning. So in this design stage, you should expect to receive a preliminary cost estimate for the construction based upon the design as it develops through the design stages. So we look to provide this as soon as possible and develop it as the design develops, because this is giving you transparency on what is being designed and the costs associated with some of the decisions you may make around the design. And it's important to keep it connected to your overall budget. So any changes that are potentially being explored in that design development stage, a cost effect associated with introducing something else can easily be included or excluded based upon the estimate of that element. Value engineering is really important because this means analysing the design for any areas of cost saving, what opportunities there are to save some money without compromising the quality or functionality. Now, this will give you the opportunity to make a decision, and that decision can be, I'll take the saving, thank you, or it can be, I'd actually like to reinvest that saving in other areas of the project. Finally, around schedule development. So this is looking really to produce the preliminary project schedule with the milestones that are required, not only in design and permit, but also for the different phases of the construction process. Okay, So moving on now to the architects and engineers' roles. It's important to recognize that these guys have some really key, some key parts to play in your design, not just to create the optimum design to your brief, but also they have to ensure it is compliant with the planning regulations. And they are also required to formally sign and approve all the documentation that is needed in the process with their official stamps. And all the information associated with the project is then compiled by them into an electronic project folder, so the relevant documents can be issued to the Technical Chamber of Engineering, the TEE, can be issued to ECA, the Social Security body, can be issued to the Architectural Committee for their review of the design, and also to the Planning Office for the formal permit processes. Now, this set of drawings signed by the corresponding experts, the architect, the mechanical, electrical engineer, the structural engineer, all of that is submitted under their responsibility. As I said, they are approving the documents. Therefore, the building permit includes these experts as legal supervisors for the project. And this means that during the construction stage, they have the responsibility to confirm that everything has been built and produced in accordance with the building permit, and then sign it off on completion of the project to allow the utility connections to be authorized. Okay, the planning rules. Now, as I said, your design must comply with the general building regulations and also any amendments that might exist by local laws. Now, this, as I said, can be difficult to understand. There are many regulations and also many things that can be done to make the most of some of these regulations and, achieve other things. But in general, I'm going to try and provide some rules for you just so you have better awareness. But it's important to note that regulations do change over time, and therefore it's absolutely essential to verify that the most current information at the time of your particular project. But some typical planning regulations include, firstly, the zoning regulations, and these designate the areas for residential or commercial or industrial, and therefore the types of buildings that can be built in each of these zones. Building permits are generally required for all construction or renovation of residential properties, and I'll talk about the permit process a bit later in the webinar in a bit more detail, but this involves submitting detailed plans and specifications to the local planning office for approval. Land use restrictions relate to the maximum height and footprint and overall size of the buildings, and they're to make sure really that the buildings are in harmony with the environment around it. There are requirements on setback, and this is stating the distance between buildings and their distance from boundaries, roads, as I said, any other structures. This is to make sure that there is an organized urban or rural environment. Density and floor area ratio regulations. These provide the limits on the total floor area that can be developed on a specific plot, and I'll explain a little bit more about that because there are some calculations to be taken into account. Environmental considerations may impact the residential planning and impose some restrictions, especially when in ecologically sensitive areas or near bodies of water. And because of the cultural heritage In Greece, there are many specific rules if you are near any archaeological sites or historic buildings. And the rules on utilities and infrastructure relate to the regulations for electricity and water connections, and also sewage connections or sewage systems. Okay, just want to focus now on two key aspects. One is, and the first one is if you have a plot outside of the village zone. Now, first of all, you need to have a plot now of at least 4,000 square meters. And when looking at building coverage, the regulation refers to a percentage of the plot that can be covered by the footprint of the buildings. And on these plots, the building's coverage or footprint is limited to 10% of the total plot area. Setbacks. As I said, these refer to the required minimum distances between the building structure and boundaries, but they also cover roads and other structures. And these are established to ensure the proper spacing. Setbacks for boundaries are generally 15 meters, although there are other allowances depending upon the particular width of your building that is designed. 10 meters to riverbanks, 10 meters to forest land. This is to help preserve the natural environment, including vegetation, wildlife habitats, etc. And for roads, these are calculated based upon the type of road that the property faces and are measured from the center of the road. Now, these setbacks range from 15 to 60 meters, depending upon the type of road that it is. For height limits, for two-story houses, this is ground and first floor. The height limit is 7.5 meters. And for a single story or any single story section of a two-story house, the height limit is 4 meters. It's measured from the level of the surrounding ground, whether that's natural or man-made, to the very top of the structure, the top beam of the house. And above this height, you can only add parapets or light wells that don't exceed a certain height, which I think is 30 centimeters, plus chimneys and roofs. If you have a sloped roof, then those are allowed to 1.2 meters above that height limit I mentioned earlier. Also, if you are building at the top of a hill, you're not permitted to build above the hilltop line. Now, I mentioned earlier about the floor area ratio and this regulation that states the maximum floor area that can be built in relation to the plot size. And this is a calculation. So for your plot between 4,000 and 8,000 square meters, for the first 4,000 square meters, you're allowed to build a maximum of 186 square meters. If you have more than 4,000 square meters, then to calculate the extra, you multiply that extra amount of square meterage above the 4,000 by a factor of 0.018 to give you the extra square meterage. So as an example, if you had 5,000 square meter plot, that's an extra 1,000 square meters that you would multiply by the factor of 0.018, excuse me, which would give you an extra buildable area of 18 square meters. Add that 18 square meters to your original 186, and you end up with a total buildable of 204 square meters. For plots over 8,000 square meters, the calculation is slightly different. For the first 8,000, you're allowed to build 258 square meters. And for the extra, again, using the same calculation method, you now multiply that extra square meterage on the plot by a factor of 0.009. Generally, basements don't count in the square meterage, and they must only really be used for storage. If you're inside a village zone, there is a residential building coverage limit for these plots, and to calculate this, you simply multiply the plot area by the building coverage limit. The limit of 60% applies to the total area occupied by all the buildings, and this 60% can increase to 70% for smaller plots. So the minimum, I think, of 120 square meters can be built. So that gives you that flex on some of those smaller plots. Counted in the calculation is the outline of all the enclosed areas of the new building, outdoor spaces such as terraces, and any existing buildings that might already be on the plot. Excluded in the calculation are balconies, basements within the footprint of the above ground building, pools, and if you create a design with vertical openings from ground floor to first floor, and those openings don't have a cover, so it's like an atrium, then that also is excluded from the calculation. The plot does need to be on a road that is in common use. Common use is can give you a range of the size of that road, but it can also vary depending on some of the local village rules which might affect these. Again, always important to check the specifics of the plot. So now to talk a little bit more about the actual building permit, and I'm going to go through here a summary of the process, the documentation, and the types, permit types, and the validity. Now, hopefully this graphic makes it easy to follow, but as I mentioned in the key planning rules earlier, if you're planning to construct it, firstly, you're likely to need a permit from the local authorities. There are 3 types of permit, and I'll explain those a little bit later. But if we start with the certificate of building conditions, this is advised to get for all permit types, and it can be applied for from the very start. It only needs a topograph, an ownership contract, and a technical description of the plot that would have been provided during the purchase process. It's normally issued within 2 weeks, and again, it's categorized in line with the building permit types. Once we have a coordinated design complete, in accordance with the controlled design process I discussed earlier, this design will be produced in the formats that are required for the planning authorities ready for submission. They're then prepared, submitted for pre-approval. Pre-approval is needed when we are in Category 1 and Category 2 type permits, and these are the higher controlled areas. These documents for submission include topograph, an ownership contract, technical description, architectural studies, 3Ds, and elevations. Excuse me. At the same time, the local architectural committee will be asked to review the design. And when submitting to the architectural committee, only the architectural studies, 3Ds, and elevations are required. Once these stages are complete, we start the detailed engineering studies. So not to waste time on engineering for a design that may not actually be approved. Once the engineering studies are complete, we produce the complete set of design documentation to be submitted to the local planning office for full building permit approval. And I'll let you know the details of that documentation next. But it's important to note that in addition to the documentation, there's a requirement to pay the government taxes in advance. And this is for the license and for the social security. The planning office then review the documents and proceed to issue the full building permit. I'm just going to take a short drink, bear with me. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in the building permit process, a complete set of design documentation is required, and this includes the architectural study, that includes the detailed drawings, the specifications, building layout, exterior design, interior layout, external finishes, and any other particular architectural features. The topographic is the drawing which shows the main physical features of the ground, such as buildings, fences, roads, etc., as well as the changes in elevation across the plot, so the contours of the plot. The structural study outlines the building's foundation, load-bearing walls, beams, columns, and any other structural elements that support the building. The electrical and mechanical study covers all of the building's electrical and mechanical systems, including lighting, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, plumbing, and any other utilities. Thermal study assesses the insulation properties of the building and ensures that they meet the local energy standards. When it comes to the water supply and drainage, this study describes the water supply and wastewater disposal systems, including any piping, fixtures, drainage systems. Fire study describes the building's prevention measures, fire prevention measures, including any alarms, sprinkler systems, or any other safety features. Due to the history of the islands, we tend to need always the architectural study, and that is, the archaeological study, and that's an important aspect. And a forest certificate is needed to identify any areas of forest, and this is generally required when the building is outside of a village zone. Okay, I mentioned about permit types. These depend upon the location. There are three main types, plus there's an additional category for small scale works. Starting with the simplest, category 3. So this is the simplest permit to obtain. Can't be used in restricted areas or traditional villages and buildings. For this, you don't need pre-approval. A certificate of building conditions is sufficient. It still does require the architectural plans and studies, and also important to note here is that the planning office don't review all of them. They're happy to review a percentage of them. And once it's uploaded onto the planning office portal, approval tends to be fairly quick. For category 2, these are for traditional villages and buildings. And these traditional villages are defined and published by the planning office. They're a little bit more difficult to obtain due to the archaeological approval requirements, and these approvals may have to be granted from the mainland, from Ioannina or even Athens, but they can also be done locally, of course. Category 1 permits are the highest control, and these apply to the more restricted building areas such as Corfu town, Garitza Bay, and the outer village zones. Once you've got your permit, it'll be valid for 4 years. It can be extended for another 4 years for an extra small fee if you don't start the construction, as long as the conditions of the building on that plot have not changed. If you do start the work and actually complete the superstructure, the facade or the outside of the building, and the roof, then your permit will actually remain valid forever, in perpetuity. Forever, easier to say. So we've discussed the design stage, we've discussed the building permit. What's next, of course, is the project management and construction stage. So first of all, what is project management? So this term covers all of the activities of the team as they oversee every aspect of your project from start to finish. They're making sure that everything is delivered smoothly and efficiently, so you don't need to worry about anything. In summary, this includes everything from the initial planning and design through the construction and commissioning stages until the final building is handed over, to you completely finished. Some of the key tasks to note are, firstly, the selection and appointment of the construction technicians and the ongoing daily management of every aspect of their work on site. Quality control. So having taken the time to design your property, you need to ensure that a quality control process is applied during the construction to make sure it actually meets the requirements. So this includes a variety of techniques such as inspections, testing and documentation, and that is measuring everything against the quality that we expect to receive. Cost control is a critical aspect of the project, and having developed the project budgets in the design stage, it's now essential that they are monitored and maintained. So our team uses tested cost control techniques to monitor these costs, identify any potential cost effects from changes, and to take corrective action in advance to keep the project on track. Time is a critical factor in any construction project, and we're using scheduling techniques here, such as Gantt charts, to ensure that projects progress is monitored, and when we can identify the effects of any changes and strive to complete the project on time. For many clients who aren't in the country, obviously communication and reporting is essential. We need to give comfort that all is progressing. So we're looking here to combine all of our project management information to give regular communication as well as formal project reports covering cost, quality, and schedule. So I hope that you now have a bit of a better insight into the key topics you need to be aware of when you're building your dream home in Greece. And with that insight, I'd like to take a few minutes now to introduce you to our business, Compass Engineering and Development Solutions, and how we've set ourselves up to actually bring your vision to life. Okay. So firstly, considering the design stage, we are a team of architects, engineers, and interior and exterior designers that can carry out the full controlled design service from the strategic definition to the full technical design, and then continue to provide that required design input during the construction stage until the handover of the property. In addition to our in-house design team, we have established partners that also give us the added benefit of always being able to resource our projects with the most relevant resources to suit any specific project requirements. And all of this is done not only ensuring that your project design complies with the current planning regulations, but also to ensure it takes into account the surrounding environment, the site conditions, and the local architectural style. Our interior designers aim to create spaces that are functional, beautiful, and reflective of your personal style, and that we work with you to understand your needs and preferences, and so that we can develop a design that meets your requirements. Our approach is to create and develop ideas together, with our clients for their custom-built properties across Corfu and Paxos. And basically to make the whole process actually an enjoyable experience, not something to be, not something to be worrying about. To help our clients during the design stage, we create exterior and interior solutions using the latest 3D design software. This enables you to visualize and walk through the space, understand its scale, explore the different options for colors and finishes, all in real time. And while still in this design stage, our construction team also provide those other essential advice, those other essential inputs that we discussed earlier on buildability, value engineering, cost planning, and programming. Secondly, considering the building permit, we produce and submit all of the required documentation for each stage of the building permit process that we discussed, namely the certificate of building conditions, the architectural committee, the pre-approval and full building permit applications, and importantly, including the required liaison with those local authorities after the documents have been submitted. And last, but certainly no means least, we have our own project management and construction team who not only provide that benefit of inputting to the design stage that we discussed, but will also carry out all of those project management activities of quality control, cost control, schedule management, communication and reporting. But in addition, we also have our own earthworks business. So they have all the equipment necessary to carry out these works. And so that is something completely under our own control. And supporting us in the other construction trades is an established supply chain of product suppliers and technicians, and all of these have been selected to ensure that we can, deliver the results. So this complete team means that we are able to provide a complete turnkey service. That is, provide all the products and services that are necessary, from a blank sheet of paper to a fully complete, ready to move into home, be it new build or renovation. Just give me a second for a drink. Thank you. Right, now, assuming you've purchased a plot or building, how do you then proceed? Now, as a team who not only design but also construct, we're focused on making sure that the final cost is the same as the cost you thought at the start, or the contract sum, and that there are no unforeseen extras along the design and construction journey. We know from experience that the earlier in the process that your requirements are defined and fixed, the overall better value you're going to achieve. And this is simply because that the later changes are introduced into the process, generally the higher the cost of that change. So for this reason, we recommend to engage early with an organization who can design as well as build. This is our key strength, and we can offer to do this using a management contract or by a pre-construction services agreement. The aim of these arrangements is to give you flexibility, cost transparency, to provide those key elements I spoke about of buildability review, value engineering, but also give you the option of design detailing, where we can be developing the details and the interior solutions earlier to ensure that the construction progress can progress without interruption. Also, as a free of charge service, before your purchase, we can provide advice on what's possible. The art of possible for the plot you're looking at buying. And this feasibility study will show the options for the size, shape, and location on the plot of the buildings. The Pre-Construction Services Agreement, or PCSA, is a formal agreement for design to permit stage. And you can think of this as the first stage of a two-stage arrangement, where the second stage is the actual construction agreement. It's for a fixed fee. That fee is based upon the square meterage of the house and pool. And the agreement sets out the scope of service that we would be contractually obliged to deliver, namely the design and engineering activities from the very start to the production of the permit. And as I just discussed earlier, this also includes the production of the draft cost plan and also the program, and carries out the initial buildability and value engineering reviews. This PCA would typically last for around 4 months from a blank sheet of paper to the submission of the permit, depending upon, of course, a number of options that the client wishes to explore, and also the amount of time a particular client might wish to make in their own decision making. Some clients are actually ready to commit to the design and construction process right from the very start, without the need for a first stage pre-construction services agreement. And where no design has been done, a management contract can be used. As with the PCSA, this agreement is still flexible, very flexible. It gives all the buildability and value engineering early in the process, but it has the added benefit of allowing the design detailing that is not typically done in the PCSA to progress sooner, meaning that these design details and interior solutions are defined earlier. In turn, earlier decisions could allow you to take advantage of earlier purchasing, which could minimize the risk of inflation, or also potentially allow you to start some of the construction sooner. Gives you the benefit of cost transparency, as the price you pay for the construction is the actual cost of the technicians plus a fixed management fee for us as your management contractor. Where we have done the design under a PCSA, or you maybe have got the design done by others, we can use the more traditional fixed lump sum agreement. And in this agreement, this is where we would be producing the offer for the complete construction, commissioning, and handover to you of a complete building. If your design has not actually yet finalized all of the finishes, materials such as bathrooms or kitchens or tiling or flooring or etc., we can provide in our fixed price the allowances for all of these materials, and we'll share those allowances with you and include them in the agreement to give you transparency. This is all to ensure that our fixed price lump sum has no surprises, and that the price agreed is the final price you pay. The only way that price changes is when there is an approved change. and we look to manage any requests for change with you, making sure you are fully aware of the cost and time effect of any of those requests before we proceed with them. To help the understanding, we thought it would be a good idea to share a small sample of our portfolio where you can see extracts from the design process and, of course, the results. These cover a range of projects from traditional to luxury specifications. Firstly, this is a 150 square meter villa that was completed in the middle of last year. It's in the northeast of Corfu. The image you can see is an example of the typical quality of 3D render that we produce during the design process. We designed this all year round home from the very start, carrying out all of the project design activities from brief, concept, coordinated design, all of the engineering studies, and completed the detailed design of all of the interiors as well. We managed the full process to get the building permit and carried out the complete project management and construction to the handover stage of a completed home to the owner. The final design resulted in, as I said, a 150 square meter home with one master bedroom, an ensuite bathroom, two further bedrooms, a family bathroom, and a large open plan living and dining area, as well as a separate kitchen. And outside, the design included pergolas and open kitchen area, a pool, and tiled spaces that match the interior to create that seamless flow from inside to out. These are some more renders that were produced to help the client in the design process. And as you can see, the landscape design proposal integrated the house through the finishes, the stone facade, the flooring, the wooden deck, all keeping the natural look. Some photos now during the construction stage, these being typical of the type that would be included in the regular project reports. And finally, some completed photos. And in this particular case, the client wanted to do the soft landscaping, that's the planting, at a later date himself. This is an example of a large luxury project that is nearing completion. And again, we designed this property from scratch. This time used some external support partners to support the team during the design due to some of the specifics, and also because of the very high-end internal finishes. We managed the full process to get the permit. And this is, as I said, still in the construction phase. The images you can see here again show the high quality 3D rendering used in the design development process. These are some more renders, this time of the interiors, and some construction photos, again used for project reporting. This is an example now of a more modest property. This home was designed on a relatively small plot. We designed this as a single-story detached house with pergola and private pool. The aim of this design was to blend it smoothly with the surrounding nature, as it's located in a quiet location. Next to a small river and shade from the trees, etc. In this particular plot, we managed to achieve a floor area of about 80 square meters, which delivered 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, an open plan living, kitchen, dining area, as well as a basement of, I think, an additional 67 square meters. And again, you can see here the base floor plan and some of the 3D renders of the interior. And some more construction photos to give you some more examples. Okay, we have here a project that's due to start construction this year that we again have designed from the start, and we've taken it through the full building permit process. This shows the development of the floor plan and the use of axonometric in the 3D design process. You can see here some of the 3D renders that were produced from our 3D design model, all to enable the client to visualize and explore the space. These are some more of the interiors. This is an example of how we can deliver a master plan for multiple houses, not only a single home. And this is one of the developments off that master plan, and this image showing its external view of the house and how it fits into the landscape. Here are some design images resulting again from the 3D design process, and some more of the interior space with the detailed design of the internal finishes. And finally, for this webinar, just being conscious of time, this is an example of designing and constructing multiple buildings on one plot. This was designed with the owner's key drivers of creating an elegant and pleasant environment based on the traditional Paxos farmhouse. And there was a need to incorporate not only the traditional techniques, but also new design and some fine detailing. And here you can see the design development showing the plot plan and elevations of each plot. And again, some of the construction stage photos. Okay, good. So I think it's time-wise, I hope that in that time it's enabled you to get a good understanding of some of the key elements. It's obviously a challenge to cover all of the detail, but I hope I've given enough information and the balance was right. And I hope that you've enjoyed it. And before I move on to the final Q&A session, if you are interested in, building your dream home in Greece and would like to talk to us in more detail, please feel free to contact us. Our office and email address is up on the screen, or you can also call us. I'll leave this on the screen so you can note it down if you wish, or as I said at the very start, the red button at the top of the screen, the contact compass, will take you straight to the email address. So, some questions. Okay. Okay, so the first question is inevitably relating to cost. So thank you to the questioner for that. The question is, what is the average price per square meter for constructing a building and a pool? I'm not evading the question as a starter, but there are obviously a number of factors that I'm sure you appreciate. Um, the topography of the ground has a big influence on price. If you are having to access the location for the building itself by creating longer roads which retaining walls because of the slope of the ground, then you can end up spending a significant amount of money in building the access to your home itself. So what I would generally say to you is, if you are considering a home on a relatively level piece of land, where there aren't an enormous amount of rocks and stone to consider, and it's got a good access road for us to get construction equipment and materials in and out, then if your design is for a rendered facade, that is a plastered facade, a painted plastered facade, not stone finish, not the traditional stone, then for a really good quality finished product, you could look really, or you should budget really at around €2,500 per square meter for that. If you start adding traditional stone to your facade, then that price will increase. But of course, you can always blend that by having part stone, part render. So I hope that answers that first question. The second question was also to do with renovation, and that is really difficult to answer, because what is renovation? I've seen many properties where you would say it's a renovation, but actually it's everything from engineering works to support the existing walls, and then rebuilding everything, to simply some strip out and refitting. So it's really difficult to answer your question on renovation costs. So there's a question about an investor looking to potentially buy and build more than just one villa. And the question is, do we construct more than just individual villas? The answer to that is simply yes. As you can see from some of the examples I showed you, we do look at master plans where we've got multiple properties on one site. We also are working with a number of clients at the moment who are buying very, very large plots of land where there will be hotels or apartment complexes. So the answer to that question is yes. Another question we have is, if we have our own builder, can you provide the other services? I guess by the other services you might mean the design and permit services. So the answer to that is yes. We are more than happy to provide that design to permit process, and then the subsequent design detailing, helping with the interior solutions, and we can also provide the service associated with fixtures, fittings, and equipment. There are, some of our clients, many of our clients are not actually in Corfu or Paxos that often, and they need support in sourcing the fixtures and fittings that they want to put in their property so that they can actually move in. So we can, using our supplier partners, we can give you access to those agreements to select the fixtures and fittings you want, make arrangements to get those put into the property, so you can literally move into a finished building. Additional question is what is the advantage of building from scratch, and also how easy is it to build a property from afar when not in the country? So I'll answer the last bit first. Of course, it can be a scary thought, I guess, going through a design, permit and construction process when you're not in Corfu or Paxos. However, you know, our objective here is to make the whole process as you know, as enjoyable and as pain-free for you. And we can manage the whole process of the design activities remotely. We will be looking to have regular online webinars, online meetings with you, where we can be sharing our design ideas, giving you the opportunity to give us direct feedback, you know, really quickly to help us progress the design process. So when it comes to the design activity, I don't believe there's any fear to be had from not being here. When we start looking at some of the finishes materials, you know, your kitchens, your bathrooms, your tiling, etc., some clients are more than happy to have that process done remotely. We'll be sharing details of products that we believe are right. Those can be researched online, and you know, some clients are happy to do that. Others want to see them, feel them, you know, touch them, explore them, and of course, for that, you will generally need to spend some time with us, going around the suppliers, looking at different products. The first part of the question was the advantage of building from scratch. Well, here, of course, if you're buying an existing property, you're buying someone else's ideas. Yes, of course, you can renovate it, you can strip things out and put your own finishes in, but the floor plan is the floor plan. The building is the building. Building from scratch, of course, gives you the advantage to create, you know, your own vision, to bring it to life as you want it to be. So as well as having that ability to create your own personal, your own personal building with your own layout and your own vision, the other advantage is also a bit more monetary, is that you are likely to, you know, receive a better return on your investment if you're building from scratch. So a couple of points to consider there. Okay, I think we're getting close to timing. Thank you for the questions that keep coming in. I'll try and answer as many as I can before we run out of time. There was a question about feasibility studies, which I referred to part of our design services. Now, this is a service where, when you are considering buying a plot, what we can actually do for you as a free of charge service is spend some time to understand the building, the topography, your ideas, and produce for you a study which gives you the knowledge of what buildings can be placed where on the plot, and what sort of size and square meterage can be achieved, where you could locate pools, etc. So it helps you to make your decisions. It is, a really key thing. If you're making a substantial investment, then you need to be as sure as you can, I guess. And, we're happy to provide that feasibility study, as a free service to help you. We work with our real estate colleagues in the Rularuva real estate business to offer that service as well. And it just helps to give a client confidence that they can achieve what they want. Question is around, what if I've already purchased the plot? Well, first of all, congratulations if you've already purchased the plot. That's good news. What we can do in that scenario is sit down with you, as we said, in managing that design process from the start, understand what you're looking to achieve, and take you through that process of design. If you don't want to, or you're not ready to commit to the full design to permit process yet, then we'd be happy to provide that feasibility study on what you can achieve, what the art of the possible is. Okay, I think we still have. I think we're getting to the end of the questions. If anybody else has anything else, please feel free to ask a final question. We've probably just about got time. If you end the session and you think about other things afterwards, then, as I said before, please feel free to contact us. We're here for you and are more than happy to help you out in the process. Okay. I think we can successfully draw it to an end. Thank you again, everybody, for attending. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it and you got out of it what you were expecting. It can be a difficult subject to cover in a session like this. There are many aspects of it, but I hope I delivered what you needed. And for those who are going to contact me, some saying they will be, which is great. I look forward to speaking to you again in the very near future. Thank you again, everybody. See you tomorrow.